Tākiri ko te ata, kōrihi ko te manu, ka ao, ka awatea, tihei Māori. Ko tamale sāna hau te kai hautu o te ahu o te reo ki te tauhi. Ahu tia te whakaaro, ahu tia te kōrero, mai te kore, ki te pō, ki te ao mārama. Being a kaiako in both for adults and tamariki, what are the biggest differences?
So this year teaching tamariki, I feel it's more of an instilling of knowledge, instilling of those foundation tikanga, reo and practices I roto i te Reo Māori. And then teaching with adults, they're coming for a purpose of learning te reo. So I guess it's somewhat easier, but both have their kind of ups and downs, I guess.
Which do you find easier?
Tamariki. Tamariki I find easier.
Because ka whakarongo rā.
Ai, because ka whakarongo. Ko te atua. No.
In terms of teaching tamariki, what are the things that excite you about teaching the tamariki?
Seeing their faces when we turn up to teach them, their faces when we learn new things, and just the love and the kaingako that they have for their Reo Māori. Yeah.
And like you said, the kaiako or the tauira that you have as adults, they're coming for a purpose. Generally, what is that purpose?
To learn their, sometimes for our Māori pakeke, it's to learn their language and learn their culture. And then the others, non-Māori, they come to learn for their students. They're learning, they have their Māori students in their classes, so they come to learn to, be part of their world.
What do you think are some of the main things that those teachers take away from being on a program like Te Reo Māori?
They take away a worldview, a Māori worldview, and I hope that they learn that te reo is more than just learning a language when they're coming to learn here. It's learning waiata, it's learning pūrākau, hitori, and just ways of being, our values, uaratanga.
So there's a big sort of move in te ao mātauranga, mo te mana orite, o te mātauranga Māori, like we hear that all the time. But what actually does that mean?
I think it means acknowledging our histories and our stories and our pūrākau and acknowledging the places of where those come from and creating value, I guess, in those, that they are actual valuable. For example, like myths and pūrākau and things, although they're quite whimsical and sometimes out the gate, they hold a lot of kōrero and mātauranga in that, and it's acknowledging that that is valuable as much as a science book. Yeah.
That's a really good one, because a lot of people can't see the similarities between a pūrākau or a kōrero tukuiho in their particular curriculum areas, so I think particularly in secondary school. What do you think are some of the things that they can do to incorporate te ao Māori, pūrākau, te reo Māori into their classrooms?
It's a lot of what I found in my experiences of teaching pūrākau and trying to integrate it into the curriculum, the program, it's just finding the connections. You've just got to find the connections and have an open mind about it as well. Don't just look what's in the classroom, things like that, Don't just go through your resources and stuff, look out the box. And really hone in on those hitori and pūrākau. Right?
You're known for your skills in singing. How do you incorporate waiata into your teaching?
Waiata is our favourite in our class. It's my favourite. We teach something and then we make a waiata, and then I feel waiata, although sometimes when you teach a waiata you don't actually, beforehand, you don't know what's being taught. Like it's things, the stories that come in the waiata, you're not just learning a song with words, and I try to bring in as much of those as I can.
What is a favourite waiata of your tamariki or yours at the moment?
At the moment, well, being Ngāti Kuia myself, I teach our Ngāti Kuia waiata to the tamariki, and they're loving hine popo and mataho tere at the moment.
Ka pai. Can you tell us a bit about either one of those tipuna?
Hine popo. So through the waiata and the pūrākau of hine popo, especially for our little girls in our kapa haka, or in the class, the girls in there, they learn of the story about this beautiful wāhine who swam the Cook Strait, coming across challenges along the way, but she ka haere tonu, pouwhaka paukaha, she keeps going, never giving up. And I feel like that's a really good example for our kōrero Māori, especially our kōrero Māori. To have examples of wāhine toa, mana wāhine in hitori, and then we teach it, and then they learn the songs, and then they'll remember it. Ake tonu atu.
Being a kaiako Māori comes with some responsibilities, especially as a tangata whenua. But what are some of the other responsibilities e rā haipapa ka tukuna ki a koe just because you're a Māori kaiako?
Yeah. Nui te wā, ka, hara mai toro mai ngā kaiako. Things like, hang on, hundreds of examples and now I've just gone blank. So things like they'd come over and ask for, so they'd be given something on Te Ahu and they're teaching their pūrākau in their classes and they're just coming over, checking for questions and things like that. There's those responsibilities. And then I feel like I have a responsibility to uphold te ao Māori in my kura. It's not a responsibility that's outlined in a job description either. Right? It's something that we just take on as Māori, because if we don't do it, then it's gonna, ka takahi te mana. But yeah, sometimes it's a little bit like translations, like can you just translate this for me? What does this mean? So nui ngā haipapa.
He nui ngā haipapa, ka tukuna ki te kaiako Māori. Like what are some of those extra responsibilities that other colleagues necessarily won't have or be expected to do, but you have those expectations or responsibilities as a kaiako Māori?
Taha ki te tikanga, in terms of the tikanga space, a lot of the time it's karakia, or waiata or things like that, and they look to the kaiako Māori. They may know a karakia themselves, but then they're just, always tapping the Māori. I don't want to say it like that, but yeah, just always tapping the Māori. Kapa haka. Kapa haka is another good one. It's just expected of the kaiako Māori to just take kapa haka. I think for my kura, they're lucky that I love kapa haka, because that would be difficult for a kaiako who, wasn't quite into it. Yeah.
A lot of times in kura as well, you're the expert of Te Reo Māori, and so there's some responsibilities or expectations that you'll share that knowledge with others. And what are your experiences? Because I know that you've, not just now, but previously when you were a secondary school teacher, there were some of those pressures put upon you, eh?
Yeah. So I'm not a religious person, and I've worked at a kurahahi. And so one of the haipapa that they tried to put on me was to incorporate or deliver a program that incorporated te ao Māori with te ao hāhi, and I felt that hard to do that.
Well, because me whakapono te tangata whakapono, ki tāna whakapono, and ki te kore koe whakapono, well, it's hard to teach. When those aren't your beliefs, eh?
And I feel like I was so entrenched in my old Māori that I couldn't help but feel a bit of kino around that space,
And I te tuki e rā ao e rua. Yeah, that's, they must have been difficult what were some of the strategies you used to sort of work your way through?
The biggest strategy I used was to do the things that I could, and then the things that I couldn't, it was just kapa. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a really good strategy because a lot of us in the kaiako space just constantly take on those responsibilities, and most of the time it's without that acknowledgement or even remuneration. Like it's not part of a job description. You are a figure in your iwi, and you're very vocal about not wanting to speak on the pie. And so I wonder, where do you see your place within the realm of the marae and the, ki te tāki era tikanga?
Well, being a proud takatāpui person and growing up in that space, it has been difficult to navigate my old Māori. Don't get me wrong, I've always felt comfortable in that space, but in terms of tikanga and kawa and on the marae, it has been, in earlier years, it was quite difficult to navigate, like where's my place, but still being true to who I am. Now I just fill gaps. That's what I feel. I fill gaps. I'm a gap filler. Majority of the time on the marae, I'm either in the waiata group, the choir, or I'm out in the wharekai serving our people and powering them into the kitchen. And a lot of those kinds of skills, I guess, have been instilled in me by the many women in my life. I was brought up by my kuikuis, my aunties, my mum, so it was no surprise that I ended up in that space. Yeah. But it's taken a while to get there.
And last year you had an experience at the Te Reo around, sort of te tā ki te pao. Papa Timoti had some pretty open discussions about pao. How did that make you feel?
It made me feel. It gave me a sense of knowing, I guess. It gave me a sense of knowing. It gave me mana, I guess, in that space where I governed myself in that space, I guess. It gave me mana. I can't quite remember his kōrero, but yeah, I do. I remember feeling uplifted, like I was on the right path.
Not that you needed to be validated, but it was.
Yeah, it felt. A more validation. Like I was like, yes, see, here it is.
Yeah, and it's sad because it took someone else ki te tuku I tērā validation ki a koe. And so I guess what are your aspirations for our people moving forward, and the application of tikanga, and for te hunga takatāpui?
I think the biggest aspirations is to kia huakina te hinengaro, kia huakina ngā whakaaro, to open our minds a little bit. Knowing from where all of our tikanga and our ahurea come from, it's a long time ago, I'll be honest, and the times are moving and changing, so my aspirations for our people is just to allow space for takatāpui people as well. There are going to be times, of course, where it's pene, and that's fine, but also, allowing that space for us to be us as well. Yeah.
Ka toko ake tērā, what is it? Ka mate te tikanga, ka ora te tikanga. And I think that's something our generation are really sort of grasping onto. There are things that will remain the same, but we're, like our tupuna didn't row across the bloody ocean and just stick to the tikanga they had there. He rere ki te ao e noho nei tātou, and ki te ao e noho rātou. So, it's, I like that there's space given. Sort of last big question. What are your aspirations for the education sector in terms of Te Reo Māori and tikanga Māori? And where do you want to see it? How do you want to be in, say, 20 years?
I want to see, well, obviously, want to see Te Reo Māori everywhere. It should be. It should be exposed to our tamariki more. That's probably the knuckle of all of my aspirations is our tamariki and our future. But yeah, seeing it grow in, seeing it more out there, but also seeing the growth in learners as well. That would be, everyone should just learn Te Reo Māori. That's what I think.
Bye. So to finish us off, I've got some quick fire questions. Ka pai. Kai related, obviously. Kia ora. So, boil up, hangi.
Boil up.
Watercress, puha.
Watercress.
Fried bread, rewana.
Fried bread.
Okay, on the fried bread, golden syrup, jam.
Oh. Jam.
Kaimoana or tuna?
Considering I hate both, kaimoana.
Last one, TT, KFC.
TT.
Ooh, TT for the win. Hoi anō, e mea na ki a koe gu, mō tō tainga mai, ki te kōrero ki a hai o te rā, ki te tuku i o whakaaro mō ngā kaupapa huhua, ko kōrero tia e tāua, nā reire mihi ana ki a koe. Ka whakaeri hea ko te tapu o ngā kōrero ki te pāti o tēnei whare, kia puta ki te whaiao, ki te ao mārama, tihei, mauri ora.